So, today we're going to start with the last topic of the course, that is globalization and relationship of countries among themselves. So basically, um, there is like, mm, yeah. So there are seven things actually, five things that we're going to cover in relationship amongst countries, and two things that going to cover in globalization. The first thing in relationship between countries is international aid. Now, international aid is basically a sort of uh, it's an help that is given to different countries. So maybe if Pakistan or India is in a crisis, Europe or China comes up and says that, oh, there were floods this year, so we'll give you this much money, or we'll give you this much food, or we'll give you this much clothing, or maybe something else. But anything that is given as a help and is not sort of the country who is which like the country which is given the help is not sort of bound to give it back, right? That is basically international aid. Now, the exact definition is that the voluntary transfer of resources like money, goods like food, drugs, weapons, or technical services and trainings from developed countries to a developing in form of a loan. All right, so there are certain aids that are to be given back, like they're given in form of a loan, but most of them are voluntary transfers and there is no such requirement to give it back. Now, there are a few types of foreign aid. The first one could involve a transfer of financial resource or maybe commodities like food or military equipment. Financial resources means that if Pakistan is in a crisis and China says that I'm going to give you maybe 50 million rupees in order for you to get out of it, right? So that is financial. Now, maybe there were floods in India and 50,000 households were demolished, or they were like their houses were taken away. So now they have nothing. So China says that we'll provide you 25,000, like we'll provide you basic grocery that is necessary for the living for 25,000 households, right? So this is sort of a commodity aid. Another example of commodity foreign aid could be that maybe there is a war that is happening. So let's say Russia and Ukraine, right? So countries which are supporting Ukraine knows that Ukraine doesn't have the ability, like they don't have the military power to stand up to Russia. So they would provide them with weapons, and they would provide them maybe with training, or they would provide them with um, extensive military equipments in order to stand up to Russia. So that is one type of aid. One of the most common types of aid is official development assistance, which is an aid that is given to promote development, and it is given to alleviate poverty from a region. This could be, so World Bank usually gives loans for development expenditures, and UN, if provides something, they're provided for development expenditures. There are other countries as well. So if maybe US provides Nepal with 500 million rupees in order to help themselves develop maybe a motorway or any sort of this. This is also called an ODA, which is Official Development Assistance. Then there are other aid giving organizations as well, such as IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, then there is World Bank, and then there is United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. Yeah, so this is what you should know about international aid. We know the reasons, we now know the forms, we know so the effects of foreign aid. All right, so for this, there are multiple sort of criticisms and arguments that it could help them or it could not help them, because once the money is given to the country, it is very much possible that the country doesn't use this for the desired purpose. This is one thing. Another thing could be that providing such aids are going to help people to live today, right? It is not going to be sustainable. So that is another argument that is given. But if the aid is used in the correct manner, then it could have long term effects. It could maybe allow the poor people to send their children to school. And if their children go to school, then they could have a better future in the coming years. So if effects could of aid could be positive, it could be negative depending on how it is used. Next, let's talk about trade and investment. All right. So basically, trade and investment is trade between two countries is linked to. So people who have who are specialized in producing one thing, a country specialized in producing one thing, could easily export it to other people. This helps in developing stronger relations, as well as it helps in uh, maintaining its ties with the global market. It helps to um, create a wealthy currency for the economy. It helps to generate a good balance of payment, right? Then if there is a concept of comparative and absolute advantage which we have covered before. So if there is a comparative or absolute advantage for some countries for some goods, it's better for them to produce those and import the ones that they don't have any advantage on, because that way it is going to cost them less. But if they keep producing the same thing, it is going to cost them higher, and it is not going to give them the other side benefits as well that we just discussed. Then there is investment. So investment is basically that one country's people invest in another country. If, for example, there are so every country have their own stock exchange, right? If the stock exchange returns are higher, then people would tend to buy from tend to invest in these countries. But if the returns are lower, they wouldn't. Investment is sort of a exchange rate elevation used for exchange rate elevation. It is used to uplift the growth of the economy. It is used to bring collaboration between the countries. It helps in building good ties and all of these things, right? Now, investment, since it is binary choice for people, for businesses, it is not possible to force them to not possible for us to force them into investing into one country or not. Rather, they see the return and then they invest. All right. So investment also depends on the tax rate. It also depends on the business confidence. If there is a higher tax rate in a country, corporate tax, then the investors may not be very willing to invest into that country because they think that most of their amount is going to be cut um, in tax, and therefore they tend not to invest in such countries. Next, let's talk about the role of multinational corporations. So, multinational corporations are basically companies that have multiple outlets in different parts of the world. So, if we talk about Nestle, if we talk about Nestle, they have their outlet in India, they have their outlet in Pakistan, they have their outlet in European countries, they have their not their outlet, their factories in multiple countries in the world. That is what is the multinational corporation. They hire from different countries, they work in different countries, they provide goods and services to different countries. Sorry about that. So the official definition of multinational corporation could be that the company has business operation in at least one country other than its home country. So if we talk about Apple, Apple uh, has its home country as America, right? But they have a factory in China as well. So this makes them a multinational corporation, and they deliver their goods. Their goods are kind of distributed and are bought all over the world. Every country has Apple products. So this makes them a multinational corporation. So there are multiple activities a um, of multinational corporations. For example, that they import and export goods and services, which is good for the balance of payment. They're making significant investments in the foreign industry. Again, this is sort of very important for the exchange rate situation. Then they're buying and selling licenses in the foreign markets. This is building relationships among countries. So this actually the role of MNCs becomes very important because they sort of try to um, try to link the entire world together, right? Because it's one company, it's operating in US, it's operating in China, it's operating in Australia. So these three countries are connected in a way, right? So that is one sort of a very big advantage of an MNC. So this is all about MNCs. Let's talk about foreign direct investment. What do you guys think? What is foreign direct investment? All right. So foreign direct investment is basically it comes from the idea of investment that we have already discussed. So foreign direct investments are substantial lasting investments made by companies or government into a foreign concern. So the investment that is made by so there's country X, there's country Y, country X people make investment in country Y. That is foreign direct investment. So foreign direct investments investors typically take controlling positions in domestic markets or joint ventures and are actively involved with their management. So if, for example, there's a startup in Bangladesh and one person from Pakistan invests in that startup, and now he has a controlling position. Now they can be actively involved in any sort of uh, activity that is happening in that particular startup, its expansion, its operations, all of those things are being foreseen by the investor who's living in another country. Now, um, foreign direct investment could be of three types. First one is horizontal FDI, second one is vertical FDI, and the third one is conglomerate FDI. Now, horizontal FDI means a company establishes the same type of business operation in a foreign country. So, if, for example, a US-based cell phone provider buying a chain of phone stores in China, it's an example of horizontal FDI, right? So maybe a bread making business in Pakistan buys a bread making business in Nepal. So this is horizontal FDI. Let's talk about vertical FDI. These are very similar to integrations. Remember we did vertical, horizontal, and follow a conglomerate integration. It is similar to that. Now, in vertical FDI, a business acquires a complementary business in another country. For example, a US manufacturer might acquire an interest in the foreign company that supplies it with the raw material it needs. So let's say that China makes a cell phone, right? But the raw material comes from Tajikistan, right? So now Chinese people could actually invest in Uzbekistan where the raw material was coming from. So this is a vertical integration. Next we have conglomerate FDI. This means that a company invests in a foreign business that is unrelated to its core business. Because the investing company doesn't have any prior experience in the foreign company's areas of expertise, this often takes the form of a joint venture. So this could happen. Maybe a company in the US is making clothes and they want to invest in a company in Pakistan that is making um, what that is making pens. So this is a completely different market they're going to invest in. Since they don't know the runnings of this market or this they don't know the runnings of the market in Pakistan, they would simply do a joint venture. Joint venture means that they would sign an agreement with the company in Pakistan and say that this particular product is going to be a collaboration between the US company and the Pakistani company. There are different examples of FDIs that you can look up on the internet. One could be between, one example that I can provide you is between China and India. So China's economy has been fueled by an influx of FDI, targeting nations' high-tech manufacturing and services. And this FDI is coming from India. All right, so this is, I think, where we end the relationship between. Uh, all right, so there is one more. There is external debt. So external debt is basically taking a loan from another country and then we have to pay it off, right? So external debt could happen when the country is in a crisis, like it's maybe undergoing recession or it is in a lot of political instability. So in those scenarios, an external debt is the way out, and then that is taken. Um, it affects the foreign reserve earnings of a business. It affects the FDI. Overall, the effect of external debt is on the inflation because it is directly affecting the reserve rate. Another thing could be less business confidence. All of these things are consequences of external debt. Yeah, so this is where we end relationship with other countries. In our next session, we'll look at globalization.